Hello everybody, I'm Jonathan Edwards, your host for Cruising America's Waterways. This is the first of two programs where we'll cruise the Champlain Canal and Lake Champlain. Now Captain Mark is at the helm and crew member Nancy, well, she's just indispensable, so let's get started.
The Champlain Canal corridor is one of America's most historic waterways, once providing a vital trade and military route between New York Harbor and Canada. Nestled between New York's Adirondacks and the Green Mountains of Vermont, it now serves boaters who appreciate its history and unspoiled beauty.
One of the first things we did was file a flow plan.
And what's that?
Well, that's an itinerary of your trip. It lets somebody know, whether it's your local marina or a relative, exactly where you're going to be on any given day through the duration of your trip.
And why is that important?
Well, if you ran into a problem somewhere along the line, if you didn't show up for a checkpoint, at least somebody would worry about you. And if you were lost at sea, somebody would come looking. I also conducted a complete safety inspection of the vessel prior to heading out, and that included engine room inspection, oil levels, transmission oil levels, a complete fluid level inspection. Also our safety equipment, make sure we had the appropriate amount of life vests, and also dated flares. And I believe Nancy took care of the provisions.
That's right. I went and made sure we had lots of food and things to drink and anything else we might want along the way, just in case we couldn't get into a marina or decided to stay out on the water.
And I think I'd much rather stay out on the water. One of the items you'll need to start your trip is a chart, such as this one. That is the New York State Barge Canal System, and we're going to concentrate on the part from Waterfront to Whitehall.
What does this tell you?
Well, this gives you all the navigational information you'll need, considering depths, heights of overhead passes, and the buoy markers with numbers.
And where would I find one?
Any local marina, your boat store, have them available. And they're excellent. You definitely have to have one of those to make this trip. From Whitehall, we're going to transfer to this chart, which is again another navigational chart that covers Lake Champlain in its entirety. We can mark this chart, draw headings, courses, and that type of thing, and it'll help us get from point A to point B.
And it's completely waterproof.
Completely, which if the way the weather looks, we might need that.
But this isn't going to tell us too much about where we might want to stop or sites we might want to see?
Actually not. Again, pretty much navigational stuff going on here. When we want to know that, we'll go to this guide to the Lake Champlain. And in this, it gives us all the information about the marinas along our route, inclusive of their services and how close they are to other services.
So it's going to tell us where we might want to eat or go shopping,
Exactly.
sights to see along the way.
That's correct.
And I brought clothes for just about any kind of weather. We're kind of hoping for sunny weather.
I'm definitely hoping for sunny weather. It's a long day out there in the rain. But tomorrow morning, I'll probably touch bases with the local television station and get a weather forecast. And during our trip, throughout the route, I can check in with the VHF.
But bad weather wouldn't necessarily stop us unless it was really bad.
Exactly correct. That's the good thing about the canal. A little rain won't bother you a bit. You can still go right up the river and have a great day.
Tell me about our day. When will we start tomorrow?
We'll probably depart around 8 a.m. They run those locks up until 10:30 at night. Probably not a great idea to go much after dark. You should try to find a port around 9 p.m. This time of year, the sun is setting, and navigation on the canal gets a little difficult after dark.
And it's supposed to be a relaxing trip.
Exactly. We don't want to put any pressure on ourselves because we're out here having fun.
Especially the captain.
Exactly. I'll go along with that 100%.
I want to talk about a few numbers that may concern you, one of which is height. The Champlain Canal has a height restriction of 15 feet 6 inches. We're 14 foot 6 inches, so we're going to clear that by about 1 foot. The other is depth. We draft 38 inches. The nominal depth throughout the channel is 12 feet, but there are some shoaling areas that you want to be concerned with. That's why we're going to refer to our chart often and watch our depth finder. Any piece of equipment or electronics added to your boat will enhance its maneuverability and capabilities of taking an extended cruise such as we are. This particular boat has an extensive group of electronics, including radar, a chart plotting system, a VHF radio, GPS, and also a tri-data system, which gives us depth, speed, and the distance traveled. We also have a control for our remote spotlight, and we can also ease the pressure of our crew by raising and lowering the anchor from here.
Our cruise from Albany to the southern tip of Lake Champlain is about 60 miles, observing a canal speed limit of 10 miles per hour.
We're coming up on the first lock in the Champlain Canal system. It's called Lock C1. They're numbered 1 through 12, but as it turns out, there's really only 11 locks in the system. When they went to build the planned 12 locks, they ended up not having to build Lock 10.
Passing through a lock is both fun and easy and takes about 20 minutes. The captain gently guides the boat to the port or starboard wall, with crew members stationed to grab a forward and aft line. Adequate fenders should be out, and a pair of gloves will protect your hands. The gates close behind you under the control of the lock tender, whose constant vigilance assures a safe passage. As water enters the chamber from below, the boat slowly rises to the level of the upper pool. The lock tender checks our permit and tracks our progress through the system to minimize wait times. Free literature and answers to our questions are readily available.
Now that we're tied up here at Lock C1, we're going to talk to some people from the New York State Canal Corporation.
It's our job to direct people where they're going and sell them the passes, give them information, and help them have an enjoyable trip.
Well, as you travel up the Hudson River and the Champlain Canal north from Albany, red is on your right because you are returning from the sea. And after you complete navigating the Champlain Canal and you enter into Lake Champlain, automatically red is on the left-hand side because you are returning to the sea from there.
What advice would you have for a small boat like us?
Well, the most important thing is for people when they plan their trip to allow enough time.
Yeah.
If you try to rush through the system, you'll just get frustrated. So plan enough time and then be well equipped with a bow and a stern line and the proper amount of fenders on each side of the boat.
When the upper gates are fully open, the captain signals the crew to drop their lines and gently push off the wall, exiting the chamber in order without producing a wake. While there are variations in lock design, all are being improved to meet the needs of pleasure boaters. The dam that makes the Hudson River navigable at this point is just east of the lock.
Let's come up to about 7.5, somewhere right here.
Okay. You ready?
Both of them up, just rock them up a little bit. And that dial in the middle will tell you whether one motor is running faster or slower than the other. But as time goes on, your ear tells you that a little bit better than that gauge.
Right. Just like a guitar, when you're tuning it, you tune one string against the other, it's the same note, but if they're a little off, they'll have beats in between them. And the faster the beats, wah, 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 the more out of tune it is. And the slower, wah, wah, wah. The slower the beats, the more in tune it is. And then when you hear no beats at all, you're
right there.
Yeah.
That's a sweet spot.
Yeah, right.
Some boaters will choose to live on board for most of the trip, while others prefer nightly land-based accommodations. Dining, shopping, and the charm of small-town America are nearby.
We are in Mechanicville, although all you can see from here is river and seagulls and rushing water and brightly painted locks. Not a bagel in the building. You ready, Mark?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right now we're passing a hydroelectric power plant owned by NYSEG, New York State Electric and Gas, and Nancy's arranged for a tour.
A heavy steel cable runs through this row of floats above the dam at Mechanicville. They're strong enough to catch a boat with mechanical problems and hold it safely above the power plant's water intake or the dam's 19-foot drop. Inside, 2 large generators run 24 hours a day. They're connected to water-powered turbines. 90% of the water flowing down the Hudson goes through this plant. The water leaving the turbines is controlled to minimize currents in the lower channel that could affect boating. While this caution sign should be heeded, most agree that the power plant has improved travel on the Hudson. The canal system not only facilitates the production of electricity, it provides a route for shipping and pleasure boating, and a way to control water levels to prevent flooding and provide irrigation for agriculture. The canal was completed in 1823, shortly before the Erie Canal, and has been in continuous use ever since. Traveling the Champlain Canal today is like stepping back in time, so little has changed here. Our first stop is the historic village of Schuylerville, once known as Saratoga.
All the places that we're going to visit on this trip are within a short distance of the canal. To get there, you can rent a car, take a taxi, you can ride your bike, or you might even try out a scooter. We're going to show you a little bit later.
We're at the Schuyler Yacht Basin, and this marina marks the halfway point on the canal about 30 miles north of Albany. We're going to be pausing here today to take a short side trip to Saratoga Battlefield National Park.
Here at Saratoga Battlefield, we have the turning point of the War for Independence. Not only do we manage to defeat a British Army in 2 battles, we also forced them to retreat. It was an invasion from Canada that we are stopping. And with the capture of that army, we forced their surrender up in a town now known as Schuylerville, Saratoga back then. We forced them to surrender, they lay down their arms, and we used that as a bargaining chip to bring the French in as allies. The War for Independence is a very desperate war. Our resources were slender. We were fighting a very powerful enemy. It's a long war, too, and if not for the assistance and the alliance given by the French, we would never have survived all those years.
This is a region rich in historic events. The Saratoga Battle Monument commemorates the surrender of General Burgoyne and his British Army. The original design was to honor each of the 4 American generals who served in this war that was a turning point in American history. One niche, however, was left empty when Benedict Arnold later became a traitor, siding with the British. General Schuyler's country house is nearby. Preserved by the National Park Service, visitors are welcome for free tours. Built in 1777, this was the center of an extensive farming and milling operation. Guests to this affluent home included George Washington. Schuylerville is now the home of Sean's Euphoric Tubers, a gourmet potato chip factory. Why here? Well, in 1853, a Native American, George Crumb, is credited with inventing the chip while working at Moon's Lake House, a nearby restaurant. The chips were so popular, they packaged them for customers to take home. Soon, imitators began producing Saratoga chips, as they were called for over 50 years, before becoming the potato chip. So, Sean has brought the name and the chip back to its birthplace. We're docked just 2 blocks away from the center of town. This region has a long history of meeting the needs of boaters.
I think one of the best parts of being a marina owner on the Champlain Canal is meeting the different kinds of people we meet. These are truly international waterways. You can get anywhere in the world from the Champlain Canal. We meet people from Canada, Montreal, Ottawa, Nova Scotia. Then we meet people from Virginia, New York, New Jersey, Long Island, Maine. We have people doing loops. They're going all the way to the Mississippi. We have people from Texas, from New Mexico. In fact, we've even had sailboaters from as far away as Brazil and France. And there's nothing more wonderful than to hear their stories. And of course, they love to tell you stories about their trips.
I just made it up, actually. Just a bunch of cords all tied together.
Is that how that works?
Yeah, man. It's like your electronic panel. Just a bunch of cords all tied together.
In the morning, we continued our journey northward.
Great job, crew. Another successful locking.
Successful lockage.
A lot of what we're trying to do here, besides to show you some great countryside and beautiful scenery, is to show you how easy it is to actually travel from Albany, New York to Whitehall and continue on through Lake Champlain. These locks that everybody keeps talking about as a huge mystery are really quite simple. If you have a great crew like we have, it's easy in, easy out.
Fort Edward is one of many boater-friendly towns along the canal that offer free tie-ups, water, electricity, and nearby services. The town dock is down a channel just to the left of the locks as you approach them.
Fort Edward's peaceful waterfront belies its significant military history and the 16,000 soldiers who were once stationed here. The nearby Old Fort House Museum is a group of historic buildings. This one dates from 1772 and has served as a tavern, a courthouse, and an inn. Each room presents a different period in the structure's history. The kitchen reminds us of the 1930s, while other rooms represent earlier times. George Washington was definitely a visitor, although we don't know if he slept here. This organ bears a plaque boasting that it was delivered here from New York City by way of the Hudson River and Champlain Canal. A nearby archaeological dig is uncovering the remains of the fort's historic evolution. Now it's time to cast off. Not that, John. And head back to the main channel on our way to Lock C7, just north of Fort Edward.
Hi, Matt.
Jonathan,
Nice to meet you.
Welcome.
Thanks for coming down and say hello to us.
It's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. You know, our three primary missions are to operate and maintain, and now we've taken on a new mission to develop the canal system. So,
what does that mean exactly?
Well, this system, as you know, history-wise, was created primarily for commercial traffic. That traffic has fallen off as the railroads and roads have taken that away, and the recent plans are to recreate the system as a premier recreation way. To really try to accommodate recreational boaters, tour boats, you know, and find ways for folks to interact with the great historic communities that you find. And our goal is to, as much as possible, have folks, as you are, tour the system. You know, we got this great New York weather, and
oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, humidity's low.
Thanks for providing this for us.
Hey, we'll take credit for it all.
All right.
We'll take credit for it all.
Well, thanks, Matt. Enjoyed talking.
Jonathan, enjoy the rest of the trip.
We will. Thanks a lot.
Safe boating.
Bye.
The canal is operated by the New York State Canal Corporation, a subsidiary of the New York State Thruway Authority. As we headed north to Whitehall, we passed some of the equipment used to maintain and improve this waterway. Dredging is an ongoing process throughout the almost 600 miles of New York State's canals. The main channel's depth and width are kept at their charted specification in an ongoing battle against shoaling and eutrophication.
We've been coming up the canal system, and each time we come into a lock, the boat's been getting raised up to the next section of canal. We're at the top of the mountain now, and we're at lock number 9. And this time the boat's going to get lower down to the next section of the canal. So we're facing the next series of locks on a downhill side on into Lake Champlain, which is straight ahead. This is the village of Whitehall. It used to be called Skainsborough. The Skane family sided with the British during the war. Of course, the British lost the war, so the colonists changed the name to Whitehall. It's been called that ever since. It's Lock 12 as you're headed northbound on the Champlain Canal system. It's the southern tip of Lake Champlain, and we'll be headed into there soon.
At this point, we've been through 11 locks on our way to the 6th Great Lake, better known as Lake Champlain.
Thanks.
As we exited the lock, we were at the, no surprise here, Lock 12 Marina, which features a restaurant offering French cuisine overlooking the canal and an inn. The Champlain Canal literally runs through the center of town, so it's not surprising that transportation has always been an important industry here. From shipping to shipbuilding to fast 24-hour packet boats headed for Albany, New York and beyond. Skane Manor is a Victorian Gothic castle that was built overlooking the waterway in 1874. Tours provide a glimpse of its elegant past. Whitehall claims to be the birthplace of the U.S. Navy. Benedict Arnold's men took possession of a schooner that became the Navy's first ship. Other ships were then built here and sailed north to engage the British at Valcour Island. And the rest, as they say, is history. The sunset over the Adirondack Mountains was the perfect end to a perfect day.
It's daybreak on the mountain, and it calls to lift us from our sleep. Look what the daylight's given, wake up, the woods is living, sing and be forgiven today. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's a beautiful day, I believe it's a Sunday afternoon. It really don't matter, I spend it looking at her. She makes my memories scatter away. Yeah, 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 yeah.
We're approaching Fort Ticonderoga. Now, this was another fort where the Revolutionary War drama was played out. And back then, control of the waterways was crucial to the outcome of the war.
In our next program, we'll be looking at the fort's military history. But I wanted to begin our visit with a stroll through the King's Garden, an extraordinary formal garden designed by Marion Kruger Coffin in the 1920s. She was the first American woman to receive a degree in landscape architecture. The fertile soil on the shores of Lake Champlain has been cultivated for at least 2,000 years, first by Native Americans, later by 18th century armies, and then by the Pell family, starting in the 1820s. The Garden Conservancy has cited the King's Garden as a masterpiece American garden worthy of preservation. In 1977, the fort staff and volunteers began a full restoration of the decorative elements and plantings.
We've got to tie up for the night, but this adventure will continue next time as we explore the Champlain Canal and Lake Champlain. Thanks for cruising with us.